What if I told you that deep in the forests of America, there are abandoned towers where something waits for you? 3 people visited 3 different lookout towers. None of them were prepared for what they found. One heard footsteps on the roof. Another discovered a cellar that opened by itself. And the third, his partner vanished and was never found. These are their stories. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 deeply disturbing true stories from people who visited abandoned fire lookout towers in remote forests. Each one experienced something they still cannot explain. If you're watching this alone in the dark, you might want to turn on a light. Story 1. The Forgotten Tower. In 2019, 2 friends found coordinates to a forgotten fire lookout tower on Reddit. The person who shared the location was strangely secretive about it. He made them promise not to share it with anyone else. That should have been the first warning. They hiked deep into the woods with no trails and no signs of civilization. The forest felt wrong immediately. Both of them felt a heavy, dreadful energy but kept walking. They couldn't even see the tower until they were 30 feet away from it. The tower was decaying. Grey wood, broken windows, and a partially collapsed roof. But inside, taped to the wall, was a clean, fresh piece of paper with 3 words written on it. Hope you're happy. That first night, something walked across the roof. Slow, deliberate thuds moving from one side to the other. When they checked, nothing was there. The second night was worse. A man appeared at the edge of the clearing. A hunter with dead eyes and an empty expression on his face. He stared at them without saying a word, then turned and disappeared into the trees. Hours later, a shadow moved along the cabin walls. Then came 3 soft knocks at the door. They locked it immediately. Then 3 violent, heavy pounds shook the entire door frame. Then silence. Complete silence. When they finally opened the door, no one was there. No footprints. Nothing. They ran at sunrise and never went back. When they tried to contact the Reddit user who gave them the coordinates, his account was deleted. The post was gone. Like it never existed. That note suddenly made a lot more sense. Hope you're happy. He had experienced the same thing. Maybe even worse. But at least those 2 made it out together. The next person was completely alone, miles from anyone, with only his dog for company. And what he discovered underneath the tower was far more terrifying. Story 2. The Cellar. 5 years ago, a man and his dog Rocky hiked to a retired lookout tower for a simple overnight trip. But a violent thunderstorm trapped them inside. That night, while the rain hammered the roof, he heard something beneath the floor. A faint metallic thudding sound. Something was moving under the tower. At 2 in the morning, he woke up to complete silence. The storm had stopped. Rocky was whining at the door, desperate to get outside. He took his flashlight and stepped out. That's when he saw it. A metal cellar door underneath the tower. He opened it and found stone steps leading down into darkness. On every single step, there were fresh wet mud prints going upward. Someone had climbed out of that cellar. Recently. Before he could process this, Rocky let out one sharp, terrified bark. He spun around and caught movement at the tree line. Something was watching them from the forest. He grabbed Rocky and ran inside. He packed everything in seconds. But when he came back down and shined his flashlight under the tower one last time, the cellar doors were wide open. Someone had opened them again while he was inside the tower. He ran. He ran and didn't stop for a mile. The next morning, he called the Forest Service. The ranger told him that tower was permanently closed and off limits to the public. Something had been happening there. Something bad enough that they shut it all down and erased it from public records. Those first 2 people were lucky. They escaped. But in our final story, not everyone makes it out. Story 3. The Vanishing. 30 years ago, A young man worked as a fire lookout during his college summers. 9 summers in a row. 9 peaceful, uneventful summers. Until the last one. One night, he spotted a campfire burning a quarter-mile from his tower. Campfires were banned due to dry weather, so his overnight radio partner Brady told him to go put it out. He walked into the dark forest alone, but when he reached the fire, no one was there. It wasn't even a real campfire, just logs stacked and burning, almost like someone lit it specifically to lure him away from the tower. He radioed Brady. No response, just static. In 9 years, that had never happened. Not once. A wave of terror hit him. He buried the fire and sprinted back to the tower. When he reached the top of the stairs, his blood went cold. The entire station was ransacked. Someone had been inside while he was gone. The campfire was a distraction, a trap to get him away from the tower. He grabbed what he could and ran. 3 miles through pitch-black forest to the ranger station where Brady was supposed to be. The door was wide open. Brady was gone. They searched for days. They never found Brady. Not a trace. Not a single clue. He simply vanished from the face of the earth. The state kept everything quiet. No news reports. No public records. The tower was permanently closed and never staffed again. 3 towers. 3 nightmares. Footsteps on roofs. Cellars that opened by themselves. And a man who disappeared without a trace. These forests hold secrets that we were never meant to find. And maybe, just maybe, some places are abandoned for a reason.